Ephesians 5:11. Have nothing to do with the works of darkness, but rather expose them. That's the very call and destiny of this captain of Zeal, Jehu. 2 Kings 9 and 10 speaks about the one man that Yah chose. He chose a man of passion, a man of zeal, to rid the land of witchcraft and idolatry. Elijah's old. He sends a child, a son of a prophet, with a flask of oil. He says to this child, go in to the captain of hosts and make one of them rise up. And this son of the prophet goes into a tent where all the captain of hosts are, all the captain of thousands, all those who did serve Ahab, all those who are living in a land of witchcraft and idolatry and hating it. And he goes into the captains and he says, I have a message for you. And one looks up, Jehu. Jehu looks up and says, for who is the message for? And the son of the prophet says, to thee, O captain. And Jehu rose up, and the child took him into the inner chamber, and he cracked open the flask of oil and anointed Jehu and says, thus is the Lord, King of Israel. But Elijah warned this child to anoint Jehu in an inner chamber and then get the heck out of there, because this child was about to commit an act of treason, standing against the evil kings of Judah and Israel, Ahasuerus and Joram, standing against Jezebel, that scarlet woman, that queen of witches, Jezebel. So the son of the prophet anoints Jehu. Jehu's filled with Yah, filled with the Spirit. The Ruach of Yahuwah is all over Jehu. He just comes out. He comes out with Bidkar's captain. He comes out with all those find out what's going on here. And he says he's anointed King of Israel. They all join Jehu. Now Jehu has one purpose. He drives through with passion and zeal throughout the land of Judah and Israel. He's purging the land. He's purging the land of the 70 wicked sons of Ahab. He's purging the land of that scarlet woman, that queen of witches, Jezebel. He's going to cut down the evil kings of Judah and Assyria, Judah and Israel, Ahasuerus and Joram. He's going to find them, he's going to purge them out, and he's going to cut them down. He knows he's got one calling, one purpose, to have nothing to do with the works of darkness, but rather expose them. And here's the 2 evil kings. They're in the fortified city. They have a watchman next to them. The watchman sees something, a cloud of dust coming towards the city. The watchman turns to Ahasuerus and says, I see a company of men approaching. And Ahasuerus says this. He says, who is it? And the watchman looks down. He says, I don't know who it is, but the driving is like the driving of Jehu, the son of Nimshi, for he drives like a madman. And then something happens to Joram and Assyria. They start to tremble throughout their bones. The evil kings start to tremble. They send an interceptor out to find out whether it's peace or war. So a messenger, interceptor, sent out to stop Jehu and his company of men. And the messenger comes face to face with Jehu and says, is it peace? And Jehu looks at this messenger, the king, the evil king's messenger, and says, what has peace got to do with you? Turn aside from me. And not only did the messenger, the interceptor, turn aside, but he joined Jehu and drove toward the evil kings of Judah and Israel. And then Ahasuerus, back in his fortified city, he's starting to really get nervous now, really starting to panic, really trembling throughout. The fear of the Lord is upon him for maybe the first time in his life, and he knows that he's living in witchcraft and idolatry, and he's caused the whole land to tremble, to commit this witchcraft and this idolatry. And he sends out a second interceptor, a second messenger, to find out, is it peace? The messenger comes out towards Jehu and says, is it peace? And again, Jehu says, what has peace got to do with you? Turn aside from me. And this second interceptor joins Jehu and drives towards Ahasuerus and Joram. This time Ahasuerus gets in his chariot and comes out and says to Jehu, is it peace, Jehu? And Jehu looks at this evil king and says, what has peace got to do with you? And it says this thing about Jehu. It says that Ahasuerus spins his chariot around and tries to get out of there. And it says that Jehu drew his bow in full strength and shot that arrow through the armor of Ahasuerus. And he slumped down dead in his chariot. That's what it's going to take. That's what it's going to take from you and me to do our little bit to try and purge the land, to have nothing to do with the works of darkness, but rather expose them. We're going to have to draw our bow in full strength, and we're going to have to aim it straight at the works of darkness. These evil kings, these great men, the merchants of the earth. Jehu takes off. The captain of Zeal takes off. He takes off. He's on a long trek, a long mission. He's working hard. He's cutting down the 70 wicked sons of Ahab. He's cutting down their chief priests, their scribes, their captains. He comes up against Jezebel, the queen of witches. He looks up to the tower and there's Jezebel. She's painted her face. She knows something is about to happen to her. The wrath of Yah, the wrath of God is about to come upon Jezebel. 3 eunuchs look out the tower. And Jehu looks up and says, who is on my side? Who is on my side? Throw her out the window. And these 3 eunuchs pick up Jezebel and throw her down. And she's splattered on the path below. And the dogs come and tear her body apart. Jehu's on a quest. He's a man of destiny. He's a man of zeal, a man of passion. He knows he has to expose the darkness. He's cutting down every bit of Babylonian, Assyrian, Canaanite, Egyptian worship in the land of Judah and Israel. He's purging the land of every secret society that set its ugly lodge up, bringing witchcraft and idolatry to the land. Well, that's what Jehu's up against. And that's what we're up against. The Babylonian worship is never gone away. It's stronger than ever. And it's throughout all the earth. But Jehu's cutting it down. He's exposing the works of darkness that Ephesians 5:11 talks about. Have nothing to do with the works of darkness, but rather you and I expose them. Jehu comes up against a second mighty man of valor. His name's Jehonadab. Jehonadab's coming in this direction. Jehu's going in that direction. Jehonadab's going in the wrong direction, but he comes face to face with Jehu. And Jehu perceives something. He perceives something about this man of valor. As both the chariots, with Jehu going the right direction and Jehonadab going the wrong direction, come face to face, Jehu looks down into the face of Jehonadab and says, is your heart well towards my heart as my heart is towards your heart? And Jehonadab says 2 words and 2 words only, it is. And then Jehu reaches down into the chariot of Jehonadab and grabs his hand and pulls him up into his own chariot and says, come with me and see my zeal. And this captain of Zeal, captain of passion, Jehu, spun around this mighty man of valor, and they both head off in the right direction, ridding the land of witchcraft and idolatry. One verse in Daniel ties this up perfectly. Daniel's speaking about a time of Babylonian captivity. Nothing's changed. Nothing's changed. This whole world is under Babylonian captivity, witchcraft and idolatry. Babylonian worship, Canaanite worship, Assyrian worship, Egyptian worship. What was, is. One verse, Daniel 3:3. It shows you who's involved. Who's involved in this Babylonian worship. Daniel 3:3. So the satraps, the administrators, the governors, the councillors, the treasurers, the judges, the magistrates, and all the officials of the provinces gathered together for the dedication of the image that the king of Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar, has set up. And they stood before the image that the king of Babylon had set up and worshipped it. Daniel speaking about a time in the past, but Daniel, the book of Daniel, is prophetic. It's speaking about a time that's here. The end times. One verse. It shows you they're all in it together. The satraps, administrators, governors, councillors, treasurers, judges, magistrates, officials of the provinces. They're all coming out for the dedication of the image to the beast that the king of Babylon has set up. Have nothing to do with the works of darkness, but rather expose them. Daniel 3:3 shows me this, and it shows me this powerfully. We talked about it once before. They're all in it together. Revelation 12 and Revelation 18:23 fits in perfectly. It shows you the Satan. Revelation 12 talks about Satan, that old serpent, that devil of old, Satan, who deceives all the nations of the earth. Three major themes throughout the last 7 years of mankind, tribulation. Deception, martyrdom, and that Yahuwah, is in control. God is in control. They're the three major themes of the last 7 years of mankind. We're not here to talk about what your timeline is, whether you believe the rapture will be at the beginning or the rapture will be at the end, or we'll all be martyred and no one will be raptured. That's for you to find out, not for me, and certainly not for a confederation of apostates or sipping from the cup of the scarlet woman. Oh, she's still around. That spirit of Jezebel is still around. Revelation talks about her, the scarlet woman. There's only one world power, one world religious power strong enough to be that scarlet woman. Mystery Babylon. The Babylonian worshipper. That spirit of Jezebel. There's only one world power. Don't make me have to tell you who it is. You know who it is. You know who it is. The Queen of Heaven worshippers that Jeremiah talked about. Yeah. You thought it was quite new, a few hundred years old? Jeremiah talks about worshipping on the high places, worshipping the Queen of Heaven, making her little cakes. The Queen of Heaven Babylonian worshippers have always been around. For 6,000 years they've always been here. You know who the Scarlet Woman is. Have nothing to do with the works of darkness, but rather expose them. Daniel 3:3 shows me they're all in it together. Revelations 12, Revelation 18:23, they fit in perfectly. Revelation 12, Satan, that devil of old, that serpent called Satan, who deceives all the nations of the earth. Now, how does he deceive them? How does Satan of Revelation 12 deceives all the nations of the earth? One verse in Revelation 18:23. We talked about it before in a message called Battle for the True Temple of God. We talked about it before, how Satan deceives all those that dwell on the face of the earth, all the nations of the earth. Revelation 18:23 says, and the light of the lamp shall shine in you no more, and the voice of the bridegroom and the bride shall not be heard in you anymore. That's it. That's the end of salvation. That's the end of the last person on the face of the earth standing through the tribulation, becoming born again. It's over. It's over right at this very point. And then that verse goes on to say, for the merchants of the earth were the great men, and for by their sorceries they deceived all the nations of the earth. For by their sorceries they deceived. That's how Satan that devil, that serpent of old, deceives all the nations of the earth in Revelation 12. That's how he deceives them. He deceives them by their sorceries, by the sorceries of the merchants, the great men of the earth. Sorcery translates in the Greek in the strong concordance as pharmakia. You've heard it before, you hear it again. Pharmakia, by their pharmakia, by the merchants, the great men of the earth. By their pharmakia, Satan deceives all the nations of the earth. That's the method. That's the method that Satan uses to deceive all the nations of the earth. Have nothing to do with the works of darkness, but rather expose them. Pharmakia, pharmacist, pharmaceutical. It translates in the Greek, strong concordance, as hallucinating drugs, medication. That's the method Satan uses to deceive all the nations of the earth. That's Canada, that's New Zealand, that's Australia, that's England, that's Ireland, that's Scotland, that's Germany, that's France, that's the USA. All, no one escapes, all the nation of the earth. That's why Revelations 3 talks about having eyes to see and ears to hear. I want to know how Satan's going to deceive my children, how Satan's going to deceive my wife, how Satan's going to deceive Jerusalem, the secular world, all the nations of the earth. Revelation 12 shows me Satan, that serpent of old, that devil, deceives all the nations of the earth. His method is found in Revelation 18 verse 23. For the great men of the earth, I can name you 13 families. 13 families that rule this world, the great men, the merchants of the earth, the kings of this earth. The Babylonian worshippers, they haven't gone away. From 6,000 years ago to today, these families rule this earth. And the Bill Gates of hell shall not prevail. For by their pharmakia, they deceive all the nations of the earth. It's going to take the captain of passion, the captain of Zeal within you. It's going to take the remnants. I'm not speaking to the apostate. The confederation of apostates that are all drinking from the cup of the Scarlet Woman. Yeah, you know who the Scarlet Woman is. There's only one world religious power strong enough, big enough, who's controlled this world from day one onwards. They've always been here. And her, the unfaithful wife, the harlot, and her confederation of apostates who are all drinking from the cup of the Scarlet Woman's abominations. It's going to take a captain of Zeal like Jehu. It's going to take a mighty man of valour like Jehonadab. Oh, Jehonadab's might be going the wrong direction, but the captain of Zeal, Jehu's going to turn them around. Is your heart will towards my heart as my heart is towards your heart? It is. Then come with me. Come with me and see my zeal for the Lord. That's what it's going to take to stand for the kingdom of Yah. To have nothing to do with the works of darkness, but rather expose them. It's going to take the spirit of Jehu to stand against the spirit of Jezebel, that scarlet woman. You stand toe-to-toe and face-to-face with these secret societies, these Babylonian worshippers, these harlots. What have you to do with peace? Turn aside from me. Turn aside from me. The remnants out there, the elect, the holy people, those dressed in white linen, the saints, what the book of Revelation calls the remnant. They're out there. They have their eyes open, their ears open. They're full of passion and zeal. And they know, you know, what Hanini the seer said to Asia, King Asa. Hanuni comes up to King Asa. King Asa's in complacency. King Asa's going. He just had the greatest victory of all time. But Asa's comfortable. He's stretched out on the couch in Zion. Oh, woe to you. Woe to you who are at ease in Zion. Woe to you who are stretched out on the couch of ivory, who eat the fats of the lamb from the store. That's the three woes. The three woes given to the shepherds who are at ease in Zion. That's the three woes. That's the fifth trumpet, sixth trumpet, seventh trumpet. They're the three woes. The first four trumpets against the earth. The last three trumpets are against mankind. That's why they're called woes. Woe to you who are at ease in Zion. Isaiah 51 shows it perfectly. His watchmen the blind. I heard Jessica from the UK say this just the other night. His watchmen the blind. They are all ignorant. They are all dumb dogs. They cannot bark, sleeping, lying down, loving the slumber. His watchmen are all blind. They're all ignorant. They're all dumb dogs, loving to slumber. Woe to you who are at ease in Zion. My shepherds are all blind. So I send, Yah sends a spirit of slumber upon them. Expecting to hear from your platform? Rid the land of witchcraft and idolatry? No. But that's how the remnant live. That's how the elect live. They're women of uncommon valour. They're men of passion and zeal like Jehu. Is your heart well towards my heart as my heart is towards your heart? Then come with me. Come with me and see my zeal for the Lord. That's what Jehu said to Jehonadab. Come with me and see my zeal for the Lord. They're all in it together. The Babylonian worshippers of Daniel's time, the Babylonian worshippers of our time, the administrators, the satraps, the governors, the princes, all those in the provinces, all those in the provinces are in it together to bow down and worship the image of the beast. He causes all to receive the mark. There's no free choice. It says he, the Antichrist, causes all who dwell upon the earth to receive the mark. Except the remnant. Except the holy people. Those with eyes open and ears to hear. They know that Revelation 12 is talking about Satan that deceives all the nations of the earth. That serpent, bang, deceives all the nations of the earth. And they know, Revelation 18:23, by what method Satan uses to deceive all the nations of the earth. By their pharmakia, by the great men pharmakia, by the merchants of the earth, the 13 families that rule this earth. The gates of hell shall not prevail. That's the method they use to deceive all the nations of the earth. Have nothing to do with the works of darkness, but rather expose them. Jehu stood there and said, come with me and see my zeal for the Lord. For he drove like a madman. He drove throughout the land furiously.
your fragrance is intoxicating in a secret place. I find I'm moving to the rhythms of your grace. Your fragrance is intoxicating in our secret place. I find